Hello, my name is Jakub Benke. I'm an airline pilot, a Boeing 737 MAX captain, and also a multi-crew corporation instructor with Bartolini Air. But it wasn't always like that. When I was 33 years old, I was a successful young executive. I was running a major advertising media company as CEO. Today, I want to talk about this revolution in my life and what I have taken away from it. This was originally a speech, a presentation I gave at Pilot Expo in February 2026, but so many people came up to me after the presentation, and the subject of transitioning from a desk job to a pilot job turned out to be so relevant to so many people that I have decided to record it as this video podcast. I started flying purely as a hobby. I went to a local flying club for a discovery flight. The instructor let me do most of the flying during the flight. He allowed me to taxi. He allowed me to pull the yoke for takeoff. He talked me through the climb. He allowed me to make some turns and even return and approach the aerodrome for landing, which I was too afraid of, and I actually gave him the controls back at some stage. But when I stepped out of that aircraft, I was completely spellbound. And I couldn't sleep that night, and only later did I understand what had just happened. I had simply fallen in love. Like with a girl, the same overwhelming feeling, except maybe that this one didn't mind if I forgot an anniversary. I guess some of you share that feeling because flying is a very seductive and attractive partner. And this love is actually essential. You will need it to carry you through the arduous training and maybe some tough times if they come. But no love should be blind, and I'll come back to this later in this presentation. I started my private pilot license training. I did the theory and I was about to start flying. And I imagined my instructor would be a handsome young Top Gun pilot wearing sunglasses, Ray-Bans. But in fact, I was assigned a guy in his 70s with a large mustache and old, sort of rundown corduroy trousers. And I was very disappointed. I even tried to change instructors, but I failed. Nobody wanted to listen to me. And thank goodness I did, because this guy turned out to be a retired factory test pilot with amazing skills and confidence. And because he was so confident in his own skill, he gave me an incredible gift, the freedom to make my own mistakes, which I did enthusiastically. During a navigation exercise, he picked a route that was away from any large cities, roads, railways, or any landmarks that could help me pinpoint my position and get back on track. So when I took a slightly wrong course at the beginning, a few degrees to the right, a few degrees to the east, after the planned flight time had passed, the destination airport was nowhere in sight. Left, right, nothing in sight. And we had no GPS on board. I was completely lost. I had no idea where I was, and the aircraft was still flying. And then the instructor asked me calmly, "So what will you do now?" And that was actually learning and teaching at its best. Apart from the flying, I learned two lessons from him that I still carry with me today. The first one was to let go. In aviation, we actually control shockingly little. The weather, the regulations, the authorities, the technical malfunctions are all beyond our control. So if you try to white knuckle control everything, you will burn out. So your job is to control everything that is within your sphere and let go of the rest. The writer E.M. Forster put it beautifully. We must be willing to let go of the life we have planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. And it's generally true in life, but it's even more true in aviation. The second lesson was just as important. Follow real skill, not the Instagram image of a pilot. Today's world is obsessed with superficial impressions, and aviation is actually refreshingly tangible. It doesn't matter how good you look next to a jet engine if you forget your checklist memory items when this engine fails in flight. And it doesn't matter what Ray-Bans or what sunglasses you're wearing if you have to land in a 30-knot crosswind. And this actually makes aviation extraordinary in comparison to most of the world. We are tested by physics, by time pressure, by our own limitations, but not by the number of people we have impressed. I completed my training, but I didn't stop at the private pilot license. I wanted more, I went on, and I completed the so-called ATP or Frozen, which allowed me to start working for an airline. And I landed a fantastic job as a business jet pilot and the CEO of a business jet charter company. I did it for 9 years. It was great. I visited, I think, 220 airports on 4 continents, and I became captain, but then suddenly I got fired. The owner of the company got himself a new wife, and she decided she wanted to get rid of most of his key old people. So then I started flying an Airbus A320 as captain for a holiday charter company, but that went bust. So I started flying the Boeing 737, but then the Maxes got grounded after 2 of them crashed and a major design flaw was discovered in the now infamous MCAS system, and suddenly our company had no aircraft to fly. When Boeing's 737 MAX were about to return to service, COVID struck, and the entire industry collapsed almost overnight. There was no flying. I was earning 500 euros a month. A friend captain drove an Uber. Another one worked at the IKEA checkout. And a flight attendant was doing shopping at IKEA, and she spotted him at the checkout and said, "Good evening, Captain." So it was completely surreal and terrifying, if you ask me. So aviation failed me a number of times, and chances are it will fail you too, because it's a very volatile industry, susceptible to every kind of crisis. Economic downturns, natural disasters, wars. Whatever bad happens, aviation gets hit the hardest. Usually, you are also dependent on a much stronger partner, a big airline or a billionaire, and that's simply because the tool you need to do your work is worth at least a few million euros, sometimes hundreds of millions of euros. So being an independent operator like a doctor or a lawyer who opens a small practice is very difficult in aviation. What I've learned is to have a plan B, or a second leg to stand on, if you will. So if you are transitioning from another career like I did, try not to cut all ties with it and maintain some ability to earn outside aviation. I did cut my ties at my time, and I regretted it during COVID and other harder times when flying simply couldn't pay my bills. If flying is your only profession at the moment, try to develop other competencies. So become an instructor, a compliance expert, or simply start acquiring completely new skills or new education, because those may come in handy one day. When the holiday charter company I flew the A320 for went bust, my wife was 9 months pregnant with our son, and I managed to secure another Airbus captain job with another company, but the aircraft was supposed to be based in Tel Aviv, and this meant either spending 20 days away from home every month or moving my wife with a newborn to a city and country where she would be completely alone. So what I did was accept a first officer job in my hometown on the 737. So the right seat, first officer job, and half the money. Do I regret that choice? God, no. My son is now 7 years old. He's recently learned to write. And a few weeks ago, he scribbled, "I love you, Dad," on a scrap of paper and gave it to me. And if you asked me about the greatest success of my life, I would probably show you this piece of paper. And I don't think I would have it if I had taken that Tel Aviv job in 2018. So some choices cannot be undone. We are built to connect with other human beings. Your priorities may be slightly different than mine, but whenever you take a job, make sure that the compromise you are making in your private life is at an acceptable level, because the love of flying will not be enough on its own when the initial excitement fades. That is why your base and the number of nights at home are as crucial a variable in any aviation job offer as the salary. So I ditched my CEO career. I eventually became a Boeing 737 captain in my hometown. I see my family, I fly. Is it any fun after 17 years? Oh, yes, it is. I still appreciate the views. You have a guaranteed front row window seat after all. But on a more serious note, I think it's fun because it's still a challenge for me. And the challenge of flying a modern commercial jet turned out not to be what I had expected. And I'll tell you a story. Not long ago, in February 2026, an Airbus A320 was clear for takeoff from runway 07 right in Brussels, but it mistakenly lined up on a parallel taxiway, started its takeoff roll, accelerated to 107 knots, so almost 200 kilometers per hour, before rejecting the takeoff and stopping just a few meters away from the end of the taxiway, and reportedly just 100 meters away from the airport fuel tanks. And I always get goosebumps when I read reports like this, because I immediately ask the question, could this happen to me? And there's no official report for this incident. I don't want to focus on it, but what I want to offer you is a completely hypothetical scenario, how something similar might happen to me or to you on a very bad day. I fly into Brussels slightly late, so we want a quick turnaround. But it turns out the computer check-in system is down and the boarding is now manual. So everything is taking ages and we are now 1 hour behind. I had promised my wife I'd be home by 11. Now it's going to be after midnight. So I'm angry, I'm barking at the ground staff, and emotion is already affecting my performance. I also don't like the first officer I'm flying with today. He's an irritating guy. He is trying to impress me all the time. So I sort of tried to limit our communication. He senses my hostility and he also switches off. So we call the checklists, we make callouts, but that's it. Our communication and our relationship actually has broken down. Eventually the aircraft is ready, but we are now 19 minutes late. So let's be quick. Quick. We're trying to do everything twice as fast as usual. I skip analyzing the taxi routing because it's simple. I don't draw it on the map. Let's just go. And this phenomenon actually has a name. It's called speed accuracy trade-off. We are trading accuracy for speed. I taxi very fast at 29 knots, just 1 knot below the flight data recorder monitored maximum. And at the back of my mind, I know I'm not following my position on the map. I know I haven't briefed the departure well enough. I know my situational awareness has actually slipped, but I'm pressing on. I just want to go home. And this phenomenon also has a name. It's called plan continuation bias. We tend to continue to follow the plan initially set. There's no other traffic, so we are transferred to the tower early, around 100 meters before the runway, and the tower controller immediately says, runway 07 right, you are cleared for takeoff. I turn left, advance the thrust levers. My first officer, who is barely paying any attention now because he's just had enough of this asshole captain, he's just thinking, let's just go home. He doesn't notice that we're in a taxiway. Neither do I, and we are accelerating towards the fuel tanks. So the main challenges of this job, as I see them, are not in the smooth landings or the perfectly hand-flown ILSs. Obviously, it's good to be able to land an aircraft in this job, but it's far from enough. In my view, the main and the lifelong challenges of flying a commercial jet actually lie in managing yourself, your instincts, your nerves, emotions, your communication, your cooperation, your accuracy and judgment under pressure. It's prioritizing, it's making decisions, it's managing time. In your textbook, it will be called crew resource management. In an American movie, it might be called getting your crap together, but that's what it is. My best friend, who's also an experienced captain, says, when things around me speed up, I slow down. And that's one of his main pieces of wisdom after 23 years of flying. When things around me speed up, I slow down. That is why a pilot's job is a never-ending journey of self-improvement and self-discovery. And it's so broad and so comprehensive that actually becoming a better pilot means becoming a better and more complete human being. And to me, this is the essence of this profession. I wholeheartedly believe that we should enjoy the journey, not the destination, not the next bigger aircraft, the promotion to captain. These are just milestones. Your real goal and way until retirement is to become a more complete pilot. So to sum it up, I left my CEO job. Do I regret it? No. Did I regret it along the way? Absolutely I did. Aviation has let me down a number of times, and that's why I nurture income sources beyond my flying. It's not easy, but I do. This job also tends to challenge your personal relationships and your quality of life. Your priorities may be slightly different than mine, but it's still worth considering this aspect when you're thinking about a flying job. I still enjoy flying. I enjoy every takeoff, every landing, the roar of the engines, the views. It's great. I also enjoy the mental journey and the growth. Maybe it's because I'm crap in the first place, but I still enjoy getting better at this job. 20 years ago, I fell in love with flying. It's a mature love and hopefully not blind, but I still have it in me. And in the end, doing what you love and spending time with the people you love are probably the greatest luxuries of life. So lucky me.